Okay, so now we are going to move on to the next section. This is basically where chapter 5 picks up. And this is a section that is going to be talking about economic problems and economic goals and questions that economies must ask themselves, whether that be America, China, wherever. So, Roman numeral 2 deals with national economic goals. There are four goals that every economy wants to kind of hopefully have be accomplished during their normal cycles. And one of the first things that they want is a low level of unemployment. People understand that for the most part, having no unemployment is practically impossible. However, you want as low of a level as possible. If you could get to zero, that'd be amazing. But most economies can't. In the 1920s, late 20s, we had the Great Depression that kind of was starting to get kicked off, and then through basically the early 30s, almost all of the 30s. And during that time, about 25% unemployment rate, meaning 25% of people that wanted to work could not find work. And that was devastating for the economy at that point in time. And before this pandemic happened, our unemployment was at a low that it hadn't seen in a very long time. But because of this pandemic, things have obviously gone awry. But you want a low level of unemployment because the more people that are working, the more money that kind of gets dumped into the economy via the business cycle, as we talked about. So what we're talking about is low level of unemployment is when people that want to work cannot find work. Let me fix some of this stuff here. Sorry about that. I made a slight adjustment here, so we'll quickly go this. And sorry about that. Anyway, it is when unemployment is when people that want to work cannot find work. We're not saying you can't find the job that you want to find. That isn't technically unemployment, because what you're saying is you go out there and you apply for any job and you can't find one. For example, obviously prior to this pandemic, as I just said, unemployment was at a low rate. Think of it like this. You know, when 2008 hit and we had our huge recession and things were an absolute mess in America, there were big CEOs, there were people that were big wigs in these large corporations that got laid off, they got fired, and they were looking for jobs. And many of them went down to work for pizza deliveries. And you might be like, that's not a bad job. Well, it is a downgrade if you are a big CEO of a company. But those people were still able to find work. Now, it might not have been the job that they wanted, but you have to understand that fast food places are almost always hiring. They just are. You know why? Because people don't want to work there. And so we're not saying that you don't get the job that you want. We're saying that you walk into McDonald's and they're not hiring. You walk into Wendy's or Taco Bell, they're not hiring. I mean, that Taco Bell over there off of Holly Road by Culver's is always hiring, it seems like. But unemployment is when people that want to work cannot find any work. And unemployment is usually accompanied by crime and poverty. That's kind of under the no duh thing. Mainly because if you get people that don't have jobs, then they become a little bit more desperate to do things that they normally would not do. They commit crimes to feed their families. They commit crimes to, or they turn to drugs or drug dealing to try to make money. And then obviously, if you don't have any money, then you're not going to have a nicer house. You're not going to be able to take care of your house, maybe feed your family, different things like that. And so unemployment is usually accompanied by crime and poverty. If you guys, have ever been to like the north side of Flint, the unemployment up there is higher, and so you usually have a lot more crime and poverty up in those areas, and you see rundown buildings, and you see companies and businesses that don't want to be down there anymore because of that. The second national economic goal that they have is stable price levels. As far as stable price levels, what we're saying is this, is that if prices are shifting all the time, it's very, very hard for people to kind of budget that way. Maybe your parents are the type of people that really budget almost everything. And so as a result of them budgeting almost everything, they are, wanting the prices, to know the prices of things when they go to the grocery store. Can you imagine if you went to the grocery store on a Monday and a gallon of milk was $1.99. You went on Tuesday, it jumped up to $5.99. You went on Wednesday, it went to $10.99, and then back down to $1.99 on Thursday. And then every day you had to check the prices, and it just changed. It creates an inconsistency and it creates a level of uneasiness with the purchasers. And so you want stable price levels where they kind of relatively stay stable. Now you might be like, well, prices kind of go up year after year. Yeah, that's true. We're not saying it can't go up $1 or a couple cents, but can you imagine if well, let me give you an example. In the 1950s, a cheeseburger at McDonald's was 19 cents. You can get a cheeseburger now at McDonald's for $1. For the most part, it stayed within $1 range, right? But can you imagine if it jumped to $12 and then went down to $1 and it just changed? It just makes it very, very hard for people to be able to kind of budget things out, and it just becomes a little bit more difficult for people to kind of plan if you have stable prices that are not stable. And so prices are rapidly, if they're rising, people will decrease savings and spend greater portions of their incomes on other things to kind of beat the next big cycle of price change. And so you don't want that. You also want a healthy rate of economic growth. What we mean by this is that economic growth, like a means of what they call a lot of times in economics, extensive growth, meaning you have businesses that are wanting to move into your city, you have restaurants that are wanting to open, you have people that are getting jobs, and you have education that's happening, and you just want a healthy, good rate of economic growth. If it spikes too fast, too high, then all of a sudden you're going to have a huge recession or a huge depression or a huge trough. A lot of times is the term that they would use. And so you want it to actually grow at a decent pace, again, not too fast. One of the things that happened in the late 1920s was the stock market grew way too fast. And as a result, you had a really nasty crash. And so it has to be a healthy rate of economic growth. Steady growth is really kind of what you're looking for. Extensive means new businesses are being started. Talking about stuff that had never been in this area before, and now all of a sudden it's a brand new business to the area. Now we're not necessarily talking about like, maybe getting a Chick-fil-A in Grand Blanc, which would be awesome. But what we're saying is like a new restaurant or a new idea that somebody has come up with, and they put it in Grand Blanc and people have never had it before. Maybe like that trampoline park. That would be an example of extensive growth. It's a new business that comes into the area that they've never seen before, and that's a good thing. And people want to come and invest there. I think of it when the Wahlburgers opened up in Flint. I remember thinking, like, what in the world is Wahlburgers doing in Flint? Wahlburgers are in like Chicago. They're in New York City. They're in like Orlando, and they're in like fancy place, San Francisco. You think Flint, and it's just kind of interesting. But it was in a way kind of like an extensive. It's a new business, and they liked it here, and they wanted to support the people of Flint. And you also have intensive, which is current businesses, but what you tend to do is you make it more efficient, meaning your factories become better run. Business firms use existing factors of production with greater efficiency. You get more natural resources, and you're just kind of improving what you already have, as opposed to extensive, which is a new business altogether. And then a fair distribution of income. Now, we're not saying an equal distribution of income, because at that point in time, you're kind of really talking about socialism. What we're saying is a fair distribution of income, meaning depending on what you do, you get a fair wage for the action or the work that you are actually putting into the products. So I don't think any of us, I'm not upset at McDonald's workers when they ask for more money. I'm not one of those people that says that it's stupid for them to ask for more money, because in what industry do people not want more money? What I am saying is this, that none of us, I don't think, would say that a McDonald's worker is as vital of a worker as a heart surgeon or a cancer doctor. See, we would look at this and say that the cancer doctor should be paid more than a McDonald's worker. And again, I have nothing against McDonald's workers. You guys know I love McDonald's. I love their Coke. Craving one right now, and a large fry, maybe some chicken nuggets or a spicy chicken sandwich. Maybe a Big Mac. I'm not really sure. Maybe a shake. Anyway, you get the point. But I really like McDonald's, but to me, I don't think a McDonald's worker should be getting paid what a doctor should be getting paid or a nurse should be getting paid. And so a fair distribution of income just simply means this, that when people are putting in the time and the effort and the work, that they're getting paid what they should be getting paid, based on perhaps what the employer is making, those type of things. So again, you want a fair distribution of income between like middle class, lower class, upper class, that type of thing. You are almost always naturally going to have that. And depending on the economy, you kind of want it to be fair. Now, if you're talking about a socialist economy, maybe you want it to be equal distribution. But we're kind of looking at this all from the capitalist mindset, the capitalist viewpoint. All right, so let's move on to the next thing, Roman numeral 3. Do you guys have any questions? I'm looking at the screen, and I'm not seeing any hands pop up, so perfect. All right, Roman numeral 3, questions every economy must ask itself. So, in meeting the 4 economic goals, every society must answer really 3 critical questions. And each of these questions must be answered either by like some type of authority figure or talking about, like what they kind of call a market economy, which is kind of what we use, a free market economy, America does. A command economy is something a little bit different. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to go through 3 questions. And the questions are going to be the output question, the next question is going to be the input question, and then the last one is going to be the distribution question. Now, each of these questions are going to come from 2 different viewpoints. One is going to be the viewpoint of a command economy, which is like a socialist or communistic, think of it like that. And the other one is going to be a market economist, meaning you and I, like capitalists. Well, hopefully most of you guys are capitalists, but I can't speak for everybody. But we would say a market economy, meaning we let the market play itself out and we kind of react to it. Meaning, if a market economist is somebody who believes that if a product is good, it will last. And if it's not, people won't go there. Okay? So, question every economy must ask itself. And here we go. This will turn the slide over there. We'll get the pinwheel of death. And still spinning. This is awkward. Hopefully it gets done quickly. There we go. The first thing is the output question. And again, all of these are going to be coming from the command economist or the market economist. Command economist, you need to think socialist. Market economists, you need to picture capitalists. So the question becomes, what will be produced? Okay, what is going to be produced by the actual economy, by the country? What type of goods would be produced? Okay, meaning a consumer good, which is something that is produced for personal use, could be shoes, ink pens, toothpaste, flashlights, it could be phones, it could be lampshades, it could be coffee makers, it could be food, whatever. But that's a consumer good. We've talked about that last chapter with what a consumer good is. A good is something tangible. And so the output question is that the economy has to ask itself, what do we want to produce as an economy? So like Michigan became known for cars in the 1920s through the even still today. You go up north to Michigan, we're known for iron. We're also known for some shipping. You go up to Traverse City, cherries is what they're kind of known for. And that's what the economies kind of decide on what they want to create. But they could also create what we call capital goods. And these are something used to produce consumer goods. Okay, capital goods are something that is used to produce consumer goods. And what that would be basically farm equipment, printing presses, could be a welding machine, it could be factories, just equipment that would create these huge products, and that's what we would call a capital good, and big machines. So consumers goods are something that you and I would use. Capital goods are basically the things that are used to create consumer goods. And so all of this goes to part of the output question. So we're going to go to number 3, write down solution, and then we will talk about the solution at each phase of these, the market economy or the command economy, what they decide on that. And again, I will explain a little bit more about command and capital economy, or command economy and market economy. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here, it's late. And I will explain those very thoroughly as we move to the solution here. Okay? Hope you guys have a great afternoon. You do not have anything on Friday, so enjoy your day off.